Hello all and welcome to our first ever monster analysis video. Today we'll be taking a look at an action-oriented green hag that I ran as the first boss for my Etheria campaign. If you wish to know what led up to encounter with this boss, I will leave the link to the video of the campaign diary down here and up here somewhere in the card. I don't know where it is. But let's begin. So, to start, what is an action-oriented monster? That name and the principle behind it of the design came from Matthew Colville. I'll leave the link in the description as well. And it means monsters that are meant to pose a challenge against a party while being alone and also being easy to run from the DM instead of having ginormous spell lists that you have to go checking into different books or different programs to search for spells. So keep it easy to run, keep it tight, and have interesting things that they can do. That means reducing the clutter from the monster's stat block, like most spells, and adding easy to remember bonus actions, reactions, and special villain actions that can happen either at the end of a PC's turn, like normal legendary actions, or in some cases against some specific type of thing. For example, if you have an anti-paladin as an action-oriented monster, it can do something as a villain action when the paladin in your party uses Divine Smite, or something like that. Maybe an anti-monk when the monk uses a key point, things like that. So, for the first part, we select the monster that we want to make a single boss out of and start tinkering. I chose the Green Hag. So this right here is the Green Hag stat block. As you can see, she is quite beefy already with 17 AC and 82 hit points, and we can also see that she can cast 3 cantrips at will and has a very strong single target attack, dealing on average 13 damage with her claws. The party was made of 5 second level players with max health for second level, because that's how we started the game. And also they had one guard NPC with them, which is Arimea's brother, Acarius. He was following her because he was in training with her, so they had a 6v1 scenario. Let's talk then about the changes that I made to make her more valuable to fight a 6v1. So the first thing is I rounded up her hit points to 90 because I like round numbers, and I gave her one multi-attack option, which is to attack twice with her claws. I also added a ranged option, which is for her to cast Ray of Sickness, which is a spell attack, deals 2d8 damage, then the target makes a saving throw and is poisoned into the next round. So she is very strong at melee, dealing an average of 26 damage with both of her attacks, which would drop almost everyone in the party, besides SOB with his +5 constitution modifier had 30 hit points at level 2. And while at range, she only dealt 9 damage, which is considerably less, and how I preferred to run her. Instead of running her going ham in melee, I prefer to keep her far away, casting this Ray of Sickness and the bonus action that I will talk about later. She is, with the 26 average damage compared to the 9 average ranged damage, she is almost 3 times as effective in melee than she is at range. That is why I decided to keep her at range instead of melee, because I knew that if she went into melee, she could TPK quite easily. So, as a bonus action, I gave her the option called You Make Me Laugh, which is the option to cast Vicious Mockery, one of the cantrips that she already can cast at will, against a target that she has not tried to diss to death yet. So she basically went around dissing each of the player characters on her turns, but all of them succeeded. So Vicious Mockery was used absolutely 0 times, was successful 0 times, which is great. And then the other thing before the villain actions was I added a reaction to her, which is if someone started to move close to her, she could cast Hold Person, but it only lasted until the beginning of her next turn. Which means that if you started to move and she used Hold Person on you, the other party members could, if they wished to, stop her concentration on it. But before we jump into the villain actions, let's talk about the Twitch channel. As you all know, I have a follower going. We are 32 out of 40 to release my homebrew class for D&D, The Guardian. It is based around protecting your allies and using your shield to do special things and cool things. It has one subclass for each of the main full casters. So Druid, Cleric, Wizard, Sorcerer, Warlock, Bard. They all have a subclass for the Guardian. So you can jump into all of these separate areas. So for example, if you want to be more nature focused, you have the Druidish subclass. If you want to be more religious focused, you have the Clericish subclass. And also one subclass that is going to be more fightery, which means that they will have more things to do damage with their shield instead of protecting people all the time. But yes, we are 32 out of 40 at the time of recording this video, so I would very much appreciate if you could drop down there in the description and click the button to follow the Twitch. We will also start playing Darkest Dungeon in there, so if you want to come by, get a character named after you, and then go into the Darkest Dungeon and die a horrible death, you can do that as well. So yeah, let's go talk about villain actions now. The first villain action that she had and she used was after the first round, is that at the end of the first round she could call upon 6 zombie minions from 6 medium-sized coffins that were in the room. Just to note that these minions is a 4th edition term. It means that they have the same stat block, but they have a single hit point and they take no damage on successful saves. So you can just fireball a group of minions and they all die. Some of them will succeed probably. And it was called Rise. So she could call upon these 6 minions to help a little bit with her action economy, but they were quickly dispatched, especially because I think Ysera casted Magic Missile, so 3 of them were gone. And I think I also removed the Undead Fortitude from these zombies, just so they don't become too much of a bother. Then in the second round, the villain action was called Dance, which caused all the 6 statues in the room to do a slashing attack in front of them, which had a +5 to hit and dealt 5 slashing damage. It hit, I think, 2 or 3 players. It was interesting. And then, as the last villain action she used in the last round that she was alive, she called upon the Swamp King and caused the big coffin that was behind her to burst open and reveal an ogre zombie. So this ogre zombie did not have a Morning Star. It only used its fists and it only dealt 1d8 plus strength modifier in damage because I did not want it to do more damage than her, because it doesn't have any ranged options, so it needed to go in melee, and dealing 2d8 damage after 3 rounds of combat against people with such little health would be way too much. So I decided to just do 1d8 plus strength modifier. And it had a caveat. If she was to die before him, he would die as well, because her magic was keeping him alive. But if they decided to, for some reason, focus on him, then the fight would have probably ended a lot worse than it did. So, overall, how did it go? The combat was hard. people dropped a couple times. It ended with a lucky crit from Takeshi that cut her in twain with his weapon. He also got his first wild magic surge and only wild magic surge of the campaign, which caused him to gain resistance to all damage for a minute, which was incredible. I think he took 1 or 2 attacks while that was on him and was very good. SOB was the one that was most affected by her hold person. I think he got hit with it 3 times in a row and couldn't move, while the rest of the group got closer to her. Ysera was out of spell slots, so she also tried to stab the lady, the hag, and did a couple of things, but as soon as the ogre spawned, she ran away. But yes, people seemed to like it. But then after the next session ended, both Ysera's player and Arimea's player came to talk to me about my design choices, and mostly because the combat with the mean locks had been really annoying, and I agree, it was really annoying. Always having disadvantage on everything, always having to make the save every turn, having no immunity after you succeed. Yes, it is quite annoying. Use mean locks sparingly. Do not put that much mean locks as I did. And they also talked about her expectation dissonance, in which they were extremely scared of the Swamp King when it appeared. But when it got put down, when the hag died, they were a bit confused, and I couldn't get my idea across that she was the main target, not him. So those are the main points of critiques that I got from it. It was my first time ever making action-oriented monster, running an action-oriented monster. But it seems to have gone decently well. I understand the criticisms. I think that for my next time, which, spoiler alert, you can probably see on the next 1 or 2, maybe 3 sessions of Fate Forgotten Isles on the Twitch channel. I have been brewing some different ideas for an action-oriented monster to be used in that game. But yes, I think that the biggest takeaway would be to keep doing it and keep tweaking it so that I can get to a more interesting result, because I like the action-oriented design quite a lot. I think it has potential, it can be used correctly. It was my first time, it wasn't good enough. It can be much better. If I had to think of anything new, anything different that I would have done, I think that I would have kept it mostly the same, just maybe had given a level up before the fight. Since if they were level 3 and had second level spell slots, it would have felt more interesting. The fighter would have had his maneuvers, which SOB got. The cleric, the bard, and the sorcerer, Ysera was a sorcerer at the time, would have second level spell slots, have more ratio features, have subclasses, so more interesting things could have happened. She was a bit too beefy for even for a 6v1. The minions weren't that much of a problem, so it basically ended up being her doing 5 slashing damage with her dance move, and the ogre doing I think 1 or 2 punches during the whole fight. So it ended up basically just being her doing her normal stuff. I think that adding interesting bonus actions and interesting reactions to creatures can make for more interesting encounter, make for more for the players to think a bit more around the things. For example, when SOB decided after the 3rd time that he was hold personed to basically wait for someone else to approach her so that then he could run. He held his action, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, because he didn't have ranged equipment, because he decided just to buy his initial equipment, so he only had a rapier and a shield. But yes, I think that it was interesting. It can be done, just needs a little bit more prep work, and you shouldn't be scared of doing cool things when there is such a good basis with other videos that explain more about, go more in depth about action-oriented green hag monsters, not specifically the green hag. There is the action-oriented monsters subreddit, which has lots of ideas if you want to steal them. The Matthew Colville subreddit also has some more ideas about it. There are other videos. I will link as much as I can in the description. But yes, go forth, use the action-oriented design. I know it can be done, and it can be done well. With my limited experience, I know it can tweak it to be more interesting and more satisfying for the players to deal with it. But yes, I would like to thank you all for watching. Remind you once again to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow on Twitch. There's also Twitter and Discord if you wish to join. But yes, I would like to thank you all once again for watching, and I will catch you around. Goodbye.